This is By the Numbers, a podcast brought to you by the University of South Alabama's Mitchell College of Business. Welcome to By the Numbers. I'm Dionne Castor. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications here at Mitchell College of Business. And today we have Jay Hunt, who is an instructor in the management department here at Mitchell College of Business, and Dr. Jen Zoghby, who is technically a visiting professor here at Mitchell College of Business and Management. Welcome, you two.
Thanks, Dionne.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us.
Now, you all have the reputation of being very beloved, so all the students talk about you.
Who have you been talking to?
So
I was gonna say.
wonderfully,
Famous.
right? So
The marketing worked.
and you guys have known each other for a long time, so that'll be
Feels
interesting.
that way, yes.
At least 20 years.
I guess so.
That's right. And with me today is Shane Monagle and Brylan Shirley. They're both MBA students here at Mitchell College of Business, and I will turn it over to these guys. So here you go.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Dionne.
much, Dionne. And we're super excited to be here today. Podcast number 11, By the Numbers. We're really rolling through it this year. It's super exciting. And today, hosted by me, Brylan.
And me, Shane.
And we're just super excited to have you two guys here. To start off, Dr. Hunt, could you just tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you're from and how that influenced, your life and everything that you're doing today?
Well, certainly your upbringing does influence your life and everything you're doing today. So, yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. I'm a Mobile native, and I've never moved or lived anywhere else. This has been my home and my place where I've invested my life. I grew up in a great family. My dad worked for the FBI, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then when we got ready to go to school, she started working, and I went to Cottage Hill Christian School and then moved to Baker High School, graduated from Baker, and then came to South. And so loved it. Never thought that I would do the things that I did while I was here. I was, just like a normal kid, but just kind of like, I'll never do this or this or this. And I did all those things. And so it was exciting. After I graduated high school and started at South, then my senior year, I got to be SGA president of the university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was the 25th
Congratulations.
year of the school, which was... I dropped so many classes. It was insane.
I'm the president. I can do whatever I want.
Exactly. And so then not long after that, a really good friend of mine revealed to me that his dad was starting a music company and had that here in Mobile. Well, I had always wanted to work in the music industry, and I thought, well, how amazing is that I've known him all these years and didn't know what his dad was doing. So I went over and interviewed with them, and I worked in the Christian music industry for 9 years.
So did you major in a music type major at South?
Not.
What was your major?
I majored in organizational communication, but I minored in music because I was very interested in music, just enjoyed singing, enjoyed the free money, the scholarship for that.
For sure.
And sang in the choir, sang in the select group, and did all of those fun things. And but yeah, it was just a neat experience to work, in a fast-growing, company.
Yeah.
And we were, one of the fastest growing. We definitely were the third largest in the world.
Wow.
And then toward the end, they went public. So we were traded on NASDAQ for a while, so that was
That's
exciting.
exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
So anyway, the transition from there was into nonprofit, and then from there to finish up my graduate degrees, and here I am.
Awesome. Well, we're super
Never look
happy.
back.
I know.
Yeah.
Don't ask a college professor to talk about themselves, because they'll talk forever. So I tried to make it short.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Zoghby, could you also tell us a little bit about your upbringing and how it's influenced who you are and what you're doing today?
Sure, I'll be glad to. First, I want to start off by thanking y'all for having us and thanking Dionne for inviting us to be here. So I've really been looking forward to it. Mr. Hunt and I have been friends for a long time, so the fact that we get to be guests together on this is so much fun.
It is.
To me,
Yeah.
and I'm so excited with all of Dionne's innovations for the Mitchell College of Business and all of her marketing insights that she's brought to our college. So it's really meaning
Yes,
a lot.
she's
This
killing
podcast
it.
is
She's
great.
killing it.
And love that y'all are getting this opportunity during your masters to host this, which is another great opportunity. So, thank you. Yes, I'm from a local Mobile family. My family's Lebanese, so they came to Mobile in the 1890s and didn't have access to any formal education or English language skills, so they started off, which was a very common immigration pattern for Lebanese immigrants. They would buy a few things from downtown, literally put it in sort of a backpack and walk it out to the farmers in the area. So it's called peddling, literally walking. And the farmers liked it because they did not have to stop what they were doing and walk into town or drive their horse and buggy into town. So eventually, and they would just do it every day. And then eventually, as more of them came, they had some small shops in downtown Mobile and also in Pritchard, Alabama. My great-grandfather, grandfather, and then father owned shops. And so I grew up in small business family. My mother's side also is Lebanese. They grew up more in the grocery store business. And so I'm an entrepreneur, small business person on both sides. But I wanted to get into newspaper journalism, which was very exciting to me all growing up. I'm also, like I said, from Mobile. Started off in daily newspapers, then moved to North Carolina for a few years, and that's really where I got into thinking about business, not as the daughter and granddaughter of entrepreneurs and small business owners, but from covering business news. And I was a business gossip columnist there in Charlotte, which was super fun because I got to learn all the, what was going on,
all the
with all
ins
the
and
deals.
outs.
But it wasn't like personal gossip, which I don't think I would have felt.
That probably would have.
That would have been awkward. I'm too conservative for that.
Yeah, you'd have a lot of people that probably didn't like you if you did that.
It must be intimidating having a professor coming in as a professional in gossip.
And I mean, especially business gossip. So, what skyscrapers were being built, and it was the '90s. And it was the banking industry there in North Carolina. So it was amazing. It was like the streets were paved with gold up there. But we decided to move back to Mobile, which again is my hometown, in 2003, and I had the great fortune of getting a job not in the newspaper industry but in public relations, and here on this campus. So I worked in public relations from 2003 to 2013, which was a great period of growth on this campus.
Yes.
And then I got a chance to get my master's during that time, and then I got a chance to go over to the hospitals from 2013 to 2019 and be a director of public relations and marketing over at what was then called the Medical Center, now University Hospital, and Children's and Women's, and the Mitchell Cancer Institute. And I got to manage and run my own team, and we did a lot of innovative things with social media, which was a great experience for me. That's the beauty of South to me, is that it offers, from the staff side and the student side, so many opportunities to this local area. I mean, I don't know what Mobile would be without South, and I just don't want to even think about it.
No, me neither.
And then in 2019, I made a lot of changes. I went to work for the mayor's office, Mayor Stimson, which was really interesting experience in politics. And I also started the PhD program here at the Mitchell College of Business in marketing. PhD, coming from a family where people always didn't have a lot of access to education, but preached education to us. It was always a lifelong goal of mine to get as much education as I could. And so it was amazing to be able to stay in my hometown and receive a doctorate here from the Mitchell College of Business. Learned so much, and then 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to begin teaching here. So it's been a dream to be teaching here.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
You've been all over the place.
Yes,
Done all kinds of
yes, I have.
amazing accomplishments.
Well, thank you. I think I have been very fortunate to accomplish some things, but also I think I've learned a lot through adversity when jobs didn't go well like I thought they would. You know, I've been Employee of the Year, and I've also had a layoff, and I've also had a job eliminated. And what I like to tell the students, and I think Mr. Hunt and I both preach this to the students, is you can learn a lot from those moments of triumph, and you can learn a lot from those moments of hardship. And together they make a career. A career is not, I don't know, Jay, but it's not a straight line. It's not up in a straight line like we maybe were taught. But
in one of my classes, I have this great graphic, and it shows that straight path with the student on one side and your career success on the other side. And I'm like, this is not reality. No. And then the second graphic is just this nightmare of like way low lows and really high highs and ladders and streams and all of the crazy that you have to go through.
I've seen one of those graphs.
Yeah, it's what you think it's going to be like and what it's actually like.
Yeah, what it's actually like.
Well, I think if students can have a frame of reference in their head of that, then they're not surprised or disappointed. I think I grew up in a generation where I thought everything was going to be perfect and everything had this straight line and everything had straight trajectory. And so when you faced those things, they were a lot harder. Yeah. So I try to, prepare the students a little bit for that.
I agree, and I think we were preached that when we were growing up.
Oh, of course.
Because we're the same generation.
Yeah.
And what I like to tell the students is don't, understand that this is the natural ebb and flow of life. And if you're a little bit more prepared for it, then you'll just be able to, whether you're in the valleys or the mountains, you'll be able to kind of understand that this is just, this happens.
Yeah. Correct. So good.
And you both grew up in Mobile, Alabama. But when did you first actually meet?
Gosh, we have gone round and around and around about this. It must have been somewhere around 2005. So when I came back to the university, it was around 2005, and I was getting a master's degree in public and corporate communication. So I had arrived on campus during that time, getting back into the swing of things with school. Part of my graduate assistantship was that I taught public speaking, which ironically I did not do well in undergrad. But I feel like it must have been somewhere around in there where we started maybe meeting with some of the communication.
So were you y'all may want to edit this part out, not that it's improper, but just aside, were you in graduate school with Jessica Ross?
Yes.
Wow. She was one of my student interns when I was in the public relations and marketing department.
Yep, we were in the program at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, it must have been around 2005 because I had come back in July. I started the end of June of 2003.
Can you stop and start that sentence again with a break so that when they edit it, they can just pick up at 2005?
So, yes, I believe it was 2005. When we would have met because I had come back in 2003. I had started on campus in 2003 as a staff person in marketing and communications.
Yep. So I think it was somewhere around in there, and then I got a full-time job with the university in 2008, and then I started working in the recruitment area for a while, and then moved over to academic advising. So I stayed in academic advising. It was during that period that I really started realizing I wanted to teach more and more because I was adjuncting different courses, and I knew that I wanted to teach in the College of Business because I felt like I had a lot of real-world experience in that area. And then, of course, with my organizational communication master's degree, it was a natural flow to me able to teach the organizational communication course in the College of Business. And there was a lot of buzz about that time that colleges of business were looking for more social scientists, right? People to come into their graduate programs with that social science background, which communication is. And so I think that was sort of that natural extension. Like I came in, started teaching that class, and then was encouraged to do the MBA. So I have a second master's degree.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Super fun to be able to do that and then be able to teach full-time in the College of Business because this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the College of Business. I really liked the innovation that was going on over here, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it was the prep program that brought me into the College of Business and really sold me on what we were doing here.
Could you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was just going to riff on that for a little bit. I was always taught by my father to take business courses, but I came up in the arts and sciences realm because remember, I thought I would be a newspaper reporter for my whole life. I couldn't have foreseen all the changes in the newspaper industry. So I was English and politics, and then my master's is in public administration, which is through the political science department here at South. So I always think it's sort of divine karma that I teach so many business courses when I never took one as an undergrad.
I know, me either. I took economics, I think.
I took statistics. I had to take statistics.
Yep. Me too.
I took a lot. I took a lot of great courses, and I love statistics. But yeah,
never took it.
it's just such a path.
But don't you think that really influences the way we teach our classes a bit differently, with a bit of a spin on it that's maybe slightly different, that gives the students that variety of perspective? Because I've had so many students comment to me, you're different than the other professors. Like your angle on things, your take on things, your perspective. And I think communication studies really forces you to look at a lot of the theory behind some things, and some well-established theories, of the way that communication takes place, the most efficient ways to communicate, and group dynamics. I was fascinated by group dynamics. So I think it just really lends itself really well.
I think it does too, and I think also our corporate experiences,
yes,
entrepreneurial and corporate experiences, really help us preach to the students something that helped our careers, which is the community involvement and the networking that you do is so vital.
Important. Well, you mentioned the fact that your family were entrepreneurs as well. So was mine. So my aunt and uncle all of my aunts and uncles were very entrepreneurial. Ran businesses, Hallmark shops, restaurants. My aunt ran the Health Hut here in Mobile. She owned that for 30 years or so. And so I got to see firsthand that entrepreneurial kind of spirit and drive, and how hard it is and what it takes to be able to navigate those waters. And then, of course, like you said, being in corporate America, we see how tough it is and how things kind of really work, not just the theory of it. And I think we bring that into the classroom.
I think so too, and I think that's something we can offer to the students
and
encourage them in a way, because it's helped us so much.
So much.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I was going to say about you guys heading the prep courses. Since you guys are able to bring in that real life corporate experience, you've both been out there, you've seen what it's like, you've done it. And now you're able to come back and teach all of these young students that are just right there. They haven't even gotten to the beginning of that process, and you're able to just, build them up, give them the strength and the insights to know exactly what they need to do once they get there. Dr. Hunt and Dr. Zoghby, could y'all give us just a little bit of a rundown on what exactly the prep courses are, and, kind of some highlights of what you're telling these students and what you're teaching them through these courses?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I was approached in 2016 that there was a new program starting in the College of Business. So around 2016, 15, 14, 13, there had been a lot of conversation about what was going on with college students as they entered the workplace. So students had this great education. This was nationwide. There were stories about it, articles about it, write-ups, and a real concern. And I think what was happening is that students were graduating from college. They had a great degree, but then they weren't able to either land the job they wanted or keep the first job that they got because they just weren't prepared.
They didn't know what to do.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so we're taking all these classes, but there's all these little things that you have to know as well.
Correct. Yeah, it's hard. And so I think it was Abe Mitchell and Bob Wood that were talking one day, and Abe was like, well, we can just complain about it or we can fix it. Let's fix it. So he sort of talked to Bob. Bob went out and did some research, started looking into it, and came back to Abe Mitchell with some ideas, and he really liked it. So Abe donated a significant amount of money to the College of Business to start the prep program. And through that, we hired a director, an assistant director, a secretary. We had our own space. And we were able to then do two things. That's prepare the students for their career, so career readiness.
Post-graduation.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
Well, just getting ready, like, to graduate, like, career mission statement. What do you want to do? Like, getting together a portfolio of a cover letter, a resume, references.
It's extremely valuable.
Oh, yeah. And so many students don't start that process until the day after commencement, you know? So we want to start them their freshman year.
Yep.
So that's one
great.
part of it. The other part is workforce readiness. What are the skills that you need once you land that job to be successful in that job? So what's the perspective of working in the workforce and that sort of thing? So we have a 3-course sequence. The faculty got behind it. They carved out 3 credit hours out of the curriculum to go through and do the prep program. So it's a 1-hour class your freshman year, 1-hour class your sophomore year, 1-hour class your junior year.
Yep.
And then the faculty decided to carve out another 3 hours and require an internship. So though that sequence is what we call the prep program, and we have certain objectives for them to reach at the end of 101, then in 201, and then in 301. So their freshman, sophomore, junior year, they're hit with this information. Just a light 1-hour class, meets once a week, but really in depth.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take a ton of hours to learn that kind of stuff, but I don't know. It's just super awesome that the Mitchell College of Business offers that because, I mean, no other school does that.
Not that we are aware of. No one does it that way. And then Dr. Zoghby was brought on to teach the sophomores. So I end up teaching the freshmen and the juniors. But that's the great mix of the two of us, is because we're very similarly educated, similar backgrounds, similar passions, and certainly, we care for our students. That comes across.
Yeah.
You want this class to be a class where students feel warm and invited, and that's a place
and like
for them.
their opinions matter because, I mean,
100%.
Especially when you're writing resumes and cover letters and all that, that's all extremely personalized. So you have to really give the students that individual attention to help them write those types of things. So
I agree, and I would just, based on what y'all were saying, I'd just like to add that a lot of our students are coming in to a business education because they want to advance and they want to grow their in their lives, but they might not have had the modeling for thinking about career planning. Sometimes we think about jobs. We don't think about planning a career. And I think what we try to do all throughout prep, but all through in our other courses too, is get them to think about where are you going eventually, and what steps can we help you right now to get there. You're not going to build that whole career in a day or even in a decade, but how can we help you get there? And what tools can we give you now that will carry you through? What habits and tools can we foster now that will carry you through? That's why we're so invested in South Serves, because not only do we both believe in public service and volunteerism, but we know that helps lead to a more meaningful life and also is great for business connections.
Sure.
And in all of our courses, we preach community involvement and engagement, because we know that the students that are more involved will have a better rate of success in their college careers and in their life careers and their life meaning and purpose after graduation. And that's just so important to both of us. We were each raised by that in our families and in our faith communities, and we try to bring that to the students.
Well, not only do we try to bring it to them, we have an assignment. Which is the engagement assignment. We force you to have experiential learning outside of the classroom. So there's a 100-point assignment that they have to earn 100 points. We have a menu that has different activities that they can do and how many points each of those activities are, and so I get so many great comments from students.
It's kind of like a scavenger hunt.
It is.
That's what it sounds like.
Now some complain.
Dr. Hunt scavenger hunt.
It kind of is. And so some complain, but a lot of the students, even our non-traditional students who come in a little bit older, they say, we would have never done this if you hadn't required it, and we're so glad we did it. We learned so much. And so I feel, students really get a lot out of that experience, and then
Well,
we know that it
What
looks
would be-
good on their resume.
What would be some examples of the menu?
Well, some examples would be anything through South Serves. You could do in-person volunteering. You can do remote volunteering, database work for nonprofits. You could attend a club meeting, one of our many organizations here at the Mitchell College of Business or across campus. You could be in a leadership role. You could do student-athlete work. You could attend a lecture or a musical performance or a dramatic performance here on campus.
We have lots of guest speakers all across campus in a wide variety of disciplines, and so students can go and attend those lectures as long as the student can convince us that it is professional development in some way. They can't just get their buddies together and go to a football game and tailgate and that count. But definitely, activities and events that are more professional development, we want them to do. They can go to workshops or career fairs or do another job shadow or another informational interview or there's just so many things. We're willing to count anything. We want to say yes. If you can convince us that it's professional development, absolutely. We want to say yes.
Well, and to that point, I just like to say, when we were going through our own college careers, it was sort of the only way to network with people was in person.
Yep.
And I think that we knew we needed to excel at that, both through our, you were president of SGA, I was the editor of my college newspaper. So we were very connected as students because it really was the only way to be connected. And now you all have access to so many social media and digital ways to communicate with each other, both in terms of smartphones, but also social media platforms. And we understand that and we're open to that. We just want to make sure that, especially for the kids, the students that were in school and kind of marred by the COVID pandemic, we want to make sure that they understand, just like we understand the virtues of social media, we want to make sure they understand the virtues of traditional networking.
Oh, absolutely.
And the skills that it takes to network with someone. I mean, it's not necessarily just our personalities may seem easy, but I mean, these are things that we've practiced for decades now.
Oh, yeah, putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. That's one of the things I talk about with the students quite a bit is get out of your comfort zone. The comfort zone is that place that's safe and secure, but it's also the place that's just, it's not exciting.
You're never going to get any
boring.
better there.
And I tell students, look, if you've just moved here from Nebraska, I get it. You need a safe space. That's fine. The problem is when we've spent so much time, effort, energy, and money in building that safe space that now that we don't want to get out of it. And I think that's the danger. And I had a student come up to me at the end of his freshman year, and he was like, when you said that in class, to get out of my comfort zone, I took that to heart. And he said it has changed my entire experience at South because I'm a more reserved student. I'm a quieter person, but I just took that to heart and thought to myself, I'm going to do this, and it worked great. So we hear good feedback all the time.
We do, and we're very interested in the interpersonal growth of all of our students in their own authentic way to them. We're not trying to make carbon copies of ourselves.
It's not just a generic.
We're not trying to come up with corporate autonomy. What do you say? Like autonomon? What's the word?
It's not autonomy, is it?
No, autonomous. We're just rinse from people we learn. Like academia can get you only.
We're not trying to, our goal is not to create cookie cutters
Exactly,
of each student, but our goal is to help students grow in ways that they might not have been modeled to grow.
Yeah.
And they, again, because of COVID and because of reliance on digital and social medias, that they haven't been encouraged to grow. True. We had to grow that way because we barely had video games. I had to go to, 7-Eleven to play Pac-Man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't have all these entertainments and abilities to connect from our phones. So we had to connect in person. And I think that if we can bring some of that and those skills
it's
to the
scary
students.
for a student to think about a job interview where they have to go into a smaller space.
Actually have to talk to someone
and maintain eye contact with them for an extended period of time. Students have not experienced that, and that is crushing to many of them.
I think that's a dangerous thing, really, with social media. I mean, social media has a lot of great benefits as well, but it also causes people to sink down into that comfort zone and
hide away behind the screen.
Yeah, and those, in-person, communication and networking skills, I would say, in my opinion, are probably the most valuable skills that you could possibly have. It doesn't matter what industry you go into or, what business you're trying to work for or run. You have to have good communication skills. You got to be able to make new friends and network, and just to build stronger relationships, around yourself, because you can't do everything yourself. You got to have a powerful group of people around you to get more things accomplished.
You want to work smarter, not harder. And if you're out looking for a job, it's just you out there looking for a job. But if you have a network of friends, of relationships, of business contacts who are all looking for you or just trying to keep it on their radar a little bit, you multiply your efforts. And every job, person. I don't know about you, but every job I've ever received, it's been because of who I knew.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Well, and what we know from anecdotal evidence with our own careers is backed up by research, right?
Correct.
The theory of loose ties. So we think we're going to get all of our connections from our closest friends and families, and really it's the people that, it's the concentric circles out from us, the people that we know in passing, the people we've known through a group or through a volunteer activity or through a class. And the other thing that I would say is we encourage our students to follow up with us and keep in touch with us so we can help them across as they're starting their careers and even as they get into their careers. We're not trying to say goodbye to them at the end of the semester. We're just starting a conversation with them in the classroom that hopefully will continue for years.
Oh, I have conversations with students who now live in Alaska, California, Chicago. One student texted me the other day. He was in Egypt. I'm like, what is this? So it's a very interesting experience to be able to have these relationships with a student, because I literally teach every single student in the College of Business, and I most of the time teach them their freshman year and their junior year. So I really, and since I take roll and count attendance, I literally learn most all of their names.
Yeah, pretty much every name of every person that's come through this.
Oh, it's the Alabama phone book right now.
Insane.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. It takes me a minute. Somebody's like, "Are you getting old? Is that why you can't remember?" I'm like, "No, my hard drive is full." To search for a name.
They're like, "Go to the cloud, Mr. Hunt. Just go to the cloud. Go to the
cloud." So I feel like staying in touch with them through LinkedIn, and we want to build that network of being able to stay in touch with the student after graduation. That's one of my hopes, that we'll have more structure in place to kind of capture that relationship, because students, one of my big concerns is that they say, "Hey, I'm going to go take a job in New Orleans," or "Hey, I'm going to go, take this job in Birmingham," and they literally know no one. And my fear is that they're going to get up there and get depressed or get lonely or get, insecure. And I want to try to give them tools to get out of their comfort zone and where can they make friends and how. And if I know a student who's in Nashville, like Clay, I'll be like, "Hey, Nick is moving to Nashville. Hey, Clay, can you reach out to Nick? Nick, this is Clay." Like, y'all talk. And it's worked, and it's been really nice to see when I can make that happen. But, you really have to know your students to be able to make that happen. Great. But I can't do it for everybody.
And that's the beauty of it, is I feel like we do get to know the students by teaching those early, you're teaching the Prep 101, and I get to teach so many of the Intro to Business classes. Like, that's when you really get to know the students, and you can kind of really see them grow.
We haven't touched on that.
That's so powerful.
But Dr. Zoghby teaches the 150 course, which is the Introduction to Business. So freshmen have to take that. At the same time, they're taking my Business 101, the first prep course. So we have the exact same students in our classes many times, especially incoming freshmen in the fall. And so with both of us really pushing and challenging the students on so many different levels, I think that's a really fun experience.
It's reinforcing.
It is, absolutely.
Really. Something I'd love to see here, we had back in my old college, like when I was in my undergraduate, in Ireland in the business school, we had all these societies and clubs. So we'd have a clubs and socks day in your first week. But the business school would have 10 societies maybe. But you could have 300, 400 people in each one. And that's why everyone used the network. So people knew from going into college straight away, okay, I got to make my connections, got to make my network. But they were all student-led. But they were just built up. So obviously there was fun parts to them, and that's what got the students in. But they'd have professional events. They'd have collaborations. So one of them, ESOC, was the biggest one, Entrepreneur Society. They have, I think they offer 6 jobs every year for a graduate program into Jameson and Diageo. And then there's like the A&F Society, so they have links with PwC and Deloitte every year. And all these things, I'm surprised there isn't anything like that here. I feel like people go to a class and they leave, whereas in my old college it was, people were much more like connected to the business college. They stayed with it. They had much more involvement.
Right. Well, I think that helps. I mean, it's always good to hear that experience. And I think what we're trying to do, especially now after COVID and the kind of the pandemic pause that a lot of organizations were in, is we're trying to encourage that sort of student-led student leadership across the organizations, and also getting those organizations, Mr. Hunt's spearheading this, getting those clubs and organizations together so that they can co-host various things and work together to bring more people in.
Bring in speakers the same day and time so that they're scheduling things a little better. So we have an accounting club, we have an economics and finance club, we have a marketing club, we have an HR club, we have an entrepreneurship club. We have lots of different clubs, discipline specific in the College of Business, and we're working very closely with those student leaders to grow that. And then Dr. Zoghby and I speak about those clubs in our classrooms so that our students feel like, oh, I need to go and get more engaged. We don't know exactly why we don't have 300 in Ireland, but we want to have more students involved, and they are growing post-COVID.
Which is great. Like, it's good to get back into in-person connections as well. But I think the way we did it is, say if a lecturer told us we had to join one of these societies, we probably wouldn't, because we feel like we're being told what to do rather than being, doing it ourselves on our own. Whereas these were kind of ran by the students. It's very like prestigious to be in these societies. It's kind of, that's the way it was built. And then everything that came with it was just such a bonus. I'd love to see that kind of really take off. Because it was the same size college, exact same amount of students.
I'd love to see like the encouragement from the lecturers and professors, and I'd love to see the student growth too at the same time. I think we can have it from both sides.
The collab would be ideal then.
Yeah, I mean, it would be best, if the professors, presented the idea and then, found a couple leaders that were interested in it and then helped out with the process, but not so much as like, hey, I started this club, you all have to join it, we're going to go do this and do that. No, but the professor can be there as a resource to help and, to get everything lifted off the ground, help with getting everything established. So,
well, the great thing is we have that foundation in place. We are doing those things, and they're slowly growing. We've seen more and more membership and attendance at our different clubs on campus, and so that is rewarding. And we have new things starting all the time. And we want to foster an environment where students want to be entrepreneurial or social entrepreneurial. They want to start new clubs and organizations, because all that allows is like more leadership experiences for the students. And I think that's one of the things that even the university has recognized across the entire campus is students want more leadership positions. If there's only one president of SGA, then there's only one. And so no one else who maybe is equally qualified and gifted can't do it. So we need other leadership experiences for students.
Right.
And that's what we want to do.
And also something we've talked about often, and you all have alluded to, a lot of our current students were in high school during the pandemic. So they were the pandemic minimized the amount of opportunities they had to get involved and practice and start that on a high school level. So now we're having to kind of reintroduce those ideas on a college level and build that back up.
And you can see that even in the hallways. There used to be a lot more students that would hang out in the building in common areas. Pre-pandemic, and then post-pandemic,
almost
crickets.
like a ghost town. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not as many students just hanging out.
Well, and again, remember the reason why we used to hang out in college and talk before school, before classes and in between classes, is because there was not a phone to distract us.
Yeah,
We had to
exactly.
entertain each other.
We
Exactly.
had to.
So, again,
Yeah.
there's some larger societal things, and then recently with the pandemic, but there's still those social
Yes.
needs to connect and belong.
And I've tried to encourage students to think outside of the box of your phone and encourage them to put that away and make those purposeful connections and step through that bit of uncomfortableness
course.
that we all faced and go ahead and see the reward. And I have had a couple of students come up to me and say, Mr. Hunt, I've put my phone down more. I'm really happier. I don't have it with me all the time, and it's not a constant distraction. And I've met some really interesting people. And so I think if we just keep encouraging them, I think it will eventually.
I agree. And we're committed to it.
We are. We are.
So I think the fact that, we're both so committed to it and all of our classes can kind of reinforce that for the students.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think as we, go further past what happened with COVID, seems like everyone kind of just fell back into that comfort zone. We all just sat at home for a while, or I went to the beach, honestly. I loved it. But, a lot of people, they fell back into that comfort zone. They didn't talk to anyone for 8 months, a year almost. So, I think as we continue to just move forward from that, people are going to start coming back in, being more interactive. So, kind of it's like we went through a dip. We're climbing out of the dip now, and then we're going to excel past where we were prior to.
I agree. See, that's good. Yeah.
And this is a structure, this is a structure that supports that.
Yeah, for sure.
And we already have it in place, and we're going to make it happen. So, I'm excited. Gets better every semester, I think.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you feel that you kind of needed something like a prep course when you were in college, and that's why encouraged you to get into it? Or you seem to always been kind of student focused. You worked with all the SGA Council. You were...
We got a buzz.
You got a buzz.
Oh, it went away. We're good.
Okay, we're back. You've always been student focused by the sounds of it. You've been an advisor. You worked at SGA Council. Is that kind of what led you into wanting to do the prep course with Jen? You wanted to always be student focused, prepare them the best I can for the future.
Well, when I was approached in 2016 about the idea of the prep program, it was brand new. There wasn't any syllabus or course description or anything like that really in place, and we hadn't really fleshed out the program. And if you know me for any amount of time, you know that I like big challenges. I don't like to just do something small. So I remember meeting with the dean, and I said, I really don't want to do this if this is just easy, and simple. Like, I want a challenge,
Give me something real hard.
and I want to
Model
make sure.
employee.
Yeah,
Model
well,
employee.
that was just my thing. Like, that's what I like to do. I love being a social entrepreneur, and so I knew that this was really aligning a lot of my past experiences and a lot of my passions into something that I felt like could be groundbreaking and very innovative and new. And so I was given the ability to develop the third course, the junior and senior course, the 301, which is the culmination of the 3-part series. I was given free rein to develop that. So that was very exciting. It was a little overwhelming, but certainly something that I knew I could tackle and do. And I feel like it was just the right alignment of the things that I was interested in, things that I was passionate about, things I was kind of good at, and it just really worked well. So I think that, it's been an exciting journey. We still want to make improvements, and we still want to change things and do things that are different and innovative when appropriate. But I think, we have a pretty good thing going on right now. I make tweaks here and there. So, yeah.
And you're involved with the internship program, you said, was it?
A little bit. We direct, Dr. Zoghby and I are very aware of the internships that different companies that we engage with. And we certainly push that in our class, but that is primarily a responsibility of Miss Jessica Franks. who is our coordinator for experiential learning for the college.
We know her.
And so she handles all of that. And we just invite her to come into our class to talk about it a little bit more.
Get the students ready for it.
That's great. And I just think it's so, again, the structure that you all put in place, Jay, back in 2016 for the prep, the structure is so positive. And then adding the internship component and adding it as a requirement is so positive.
Well,
I think you and I were helped in our own college career by internship.
Absolutely. Well, and we, in Business 101, their freshman year, they do an informational interview. So they have to go out and they have to interview a business professional that they don't know very well or know at all. And so that's the first step. Then in 201, they might do a job shadow where they might, hang out with someone for a little bit longer. Then in 301, we do mock interviews. And then by that point, they have a full career portfolio. They know, all of their stuff. People, absolutely. And then they go out and get that required internship. And so then they're doing that their junior, senior year, and it's just perfect. Students, they just can't say enough good things about it. I've never heard a student say, that was not good.
So beneficial.
And Shane, to your point, I think that we just kind of grew up, again, generationally, where you had to be more social, interactive, and then our families kind of encouraged that. I know we were always, again, in small shops where you had to interact with the customers as they came in. So my outgoing social nature was sort of a plus with that, right? But I didn't think about it. It was just part of what I did and part of the environment I grew up in. So I think it's really important to have the structure for our students who are coming from a lot of different backgrounds, international students, people from other parts of the country, people from Mobile who maybe haven't thought in a career way, who've only been thinking about a job, to give them this on-ramp to professional success through all these things, all these requirements, both the 3 prep courses and the internship.
And I think the students are motivated because what I try to tell them is that, look, you're going to get out of this class what you put in. If I ask you to write an essay about your strengths and weaknesses, I don't know if those are your strengths and weaknesses, but I will tell them that this is the last time someone's ever going to require them to sit down and do that.
And actually think about that.
Yeah, even...
We did this in one of our MBA classes, actually. We did a strengths and weaknesses analysis of ourselves, and then...
For personal development, so that was by Dr. Brewer. But when I finished college, I did an internship as well in my undergrad, but it was long. It was 13 months, so they really work you. But once you finish college and you're going to your next job interview and you look at your resume, they're looking at your job experience. They're not thinking, okay, what assignment did you do in second year of college?
That's right.
No, they don't care.
They love just the real practical stuff. I think the only thing I brought from my undergraduate was the internship and how to use Excel. Just the way it goes, academia can only get you so far, but something like those practical courses would have been so beneficial.
So good. And also, I would say that if you are doing a job shadowing or even an internship and you decide it's not for you, that's hugely illuminating and instructive. Because, you don't want to start a business and then realize, ooh, I'd be more in the corporate environment. You want to try out and taste and test all these different internship opportunities and the job shadowing opportunities so you can kind of move toward, right?
Yeah, we require one. But we have students that do many.
Oh, and I did so many when I was an undergrad because, again, I wanted to be a newspaper reporter. My school did not have journalism. So any professional experience I had to get was through those internships.
Yep, I completely agree.
I believe in them.
One small anecdote, on my internship, I was in this position to use this one piece of software from IBM, and it's 40 years old. I think it came out in 1978. It's actually even older. And it's just green and black, and it's horrible. Did a whole year with that, and I thought, I'm never doing a job with anything like this again. And then I went for my first job after
That was
college.
our experience.
Yeah.
That's all there was.
Yeah.
When we entered the job market, believe it or not, in 1990, all the computers were nearly just solid green screens.
That was it,
and big old keyboards and mainframes and small little monitors. And
in my interview then for my next role out of college, I mentioned I used this program, but no one else would use it. It's too old. And my first day in the job, they opened up the computer and this would be your main program to use it.
This is it.
And it was the same one. And I nearly had a heart attack. But I learned
That's so funny.
learned to love it a bit more after that year.
That's an amazing thing about technology. I remember somebody told me I needed an email address, and I was like, why? Why would I need an email address?
Oh, yeah. How can we live without it now?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that I've noticed is the fact that through the generations of students that I've taught, even in the short amount of time that I've taught, just 15 years or so, it is dramatic, the technical, savviness of each generation. I would say that students today are tech and maybe app savvy, but they're not as computer savvy as they were
That's
many
interesting.
years
That's an
ago.
interesting insight, right?
And I try to help students to understand that, like when you get into the real world, you're going to email someone. You're not going to text them, right? Because we need a paper trail. We need it off of your device. We need it on, and so while they may not have to fax anything, they will have to do certain things like press 9 to get an outside line and different things that they may or may not be, used to. And we try to fill them in on that a little bit. If I had anything to say to employers, it would be, don't neglect your onboarding process. You can't just assume that this generation knows how to do things the way past generations knew how to do them. And I think where they can be very smart and they have a lot of things that they bring to the table, you're going to have to take the time to onboard them and tell them your expectations. Like, if you have expectations for turning off your phone while you're at work or not using the company computers to, shop Amazon or something like that, like you need to make that very clear because you can't just assume they should know. So my buddy will call me. He runs several businesses and he'll make a complaint about something and I'm like, that's your fault. No, you're not understanding. And he tells the whole story again and I'm like, no, that's your fault. And he's like, no, it's not my fault. I'm like, it is. You haven't told them your expectations. So I try to tell students, ahead of time, these are the expectations. My very first lecture, the very first day of Business 101 is the comparing and contrasting of high school with college and academia with the real world. Because there are so many things that are different about the real world, but students have been conditioned for, 16 years of their life, right?
Yeah, all
from
about academia.
Kindergarten through, graduating from college, so 16 years or more, they've been conditioned to be successful in a particular environment with particular rules, and boom, the day they graduate, it all changes. It's all different. It's so important to let the students know about that shift because I think that's why they get at that first job and they're just overwhelmed and they are like, well, all the rules have changed and that's not fair.
Right. That first job is so hard.
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
Yeah, I love using the story about my old roommate. Very smart guy academically, like top of his class, best results in high school. And there was one company to go to, and every time you do an interview there, they use a deck of cards. It was a maths company, and they turn over cards, you give the probability. If you don't get the job, you come home with a deck of cards. So one day he came back, and he had 3 decks of cards out of the bag. And we're like, well, it wasn't a good day, so was it? So you had all the academic skill, but you didn't have that prep kind of course.
Yeah.
Right.
You definitely could have done with at the time.
Right. Well, and even the students that are coming to us that have had more career readiness skills in high school or through their backgrounds or through civic involvement that they've been in, it can always just enhance those skills. So
Sure.
that
It's a
hour is
structure.
never wasted, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. It's a structure of a process of taking them on a journey. All of my classes are a journey, so that their final project is usually a culmination of everything that we've covered that semester. And like I said, it has a purpose. They have certain objectives that they're going to accomplish. Some of them repeat. I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes I need to hear something 2 or 3 times for it to sink in. And I feel like in some of our college classes, it's one and done. Well, if you didn't get it that one time, you missed it.
Oh, you didn't write that down?
Yep,
Too bad.
it's too bad. And so if you can kind of have a little bit of repetition, we like for them to take 101, 201, and 301, maybe like a year apart from each other, not back-to-back semesters.
Because not only is that repetition, but that's growth and maturity too.
Sure.
Because they've learned and grown.
Oh, yeah.
1 year over second.
So their
and second
freshman
over
year,
third.
they do a video of their career vision
Yeah.
statement, and then they revisit that their junior year. They have to watch that video and record it again and tell the camera like what changed, what was
Yeah.
different. Did it stay the same? How are you
Gosh,
different?
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And that self-reflection is just really insightful. And that's another reason why Dr. Zoghby and I get to know the students so well, because when you're reading their assignments, you're getting to know them, because these
on
are
a
very
personal level, really.
very much so. You're asking them to reflect on deep things. And so it's really, nice to look at, what are their values and what are their goals and, what is their personal, mission statement and, where do they see themselves in 5 years, or, the different reflections are very impactful.
And that's so meaningful to us.
It is.
As
yeah.
it's such a great role for me to be around the students
Yes.
and to be with them while they're in this period of self-discovery. This year, this semester, since we just had the solar eclipse, I challenged them to write where they would be when the next solar eclipse hit the U.S.,
When-
which is
when will that be?
2044 or 2045.
Wow, okay.
So 20 or 21 years from now,
Wow.
depending on where you are in the U.S. in terms of totality. And so that was just such a fun exercise for me to think about where I'll be in 20 or 21 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But then also for them to think about where they'll be from, say they're 18 or 19, 20, and then now they'll be like solidly in midlife when the
Yep.
next solar
40
eclipse
something.
happens. And just to think about that, I mean, where do you have the space, like you said, Jay, to think about those kind of things? I mean, that's so cool.
No
No one is
Literally,
asking you
no
to
one
slow
thinks about
down
that.
and reflect on these things. And
I mean, that's such an
It
honor that
is.
we get to be
Oh,
with
yeah.
them when they're on that journey.
yeah, I take it very seriously. I know we both do about
Ah.
the influence that we're having to put things and ask questions in our classes that are challenging them and
Yeah.
stretching them as not just a academic, but as a human being. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how are you giving back? How are you going to make a difference in the world? Like, what, I tell my students all the time, look, I'm not doing this to be silly. I literally want you to go out and change the world.
Yeah,
and we
actually.
do
Oh,
that.
I tell them that all the
We're
time.
not trying to just help you get a job.
Right.
We're trying to help you make
Exactly.
a difference.
If
That's what
you
we're all
can
here
be-
to do, ultimately.
Absolutely. If you can be a healthy leader and create a healthy work environment, you are impacting everyone that works for you. That they go home happier, they go home more relaxed, they go home willing to maybe take their kids to the park, right? Or whatever. They're not upset or angry or frustrated or, just white knuckling it until, the next day when they have to go to work. If you can create a healthy environment, then we are going to change society. So we
That's
try
what
to
the world
build that
needs.
in.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's really what the world
Well,
Not
needs.
just
and I
teachers,
think-
but mentors.
I agree. And I think that we, one of the reasons that we're so inspired to do that is because we were so helped by mentors, pastors, ministers, family, friends. I mean, people in our community in the education setting and outside the education setting. I mean,
Absolutely.
they really poured so much into us.
Yep.
And now it's a huge privilege to
Yeah.
pass that on to the next
But I
generation.
also know seasons of my life where I wanted to ask someone and didn't know who to ask. So I remember those seasons as well, and I can remember thinking, a lot of times in particular, guys won't ask certain questions of other
Yeah,
guys.
for sure.
It's changing. I think generationally, like, guys are becoming a little bit more open,
Yeah,
but
more open.
not my generation, like,
No.
so I want to be that and foster that, approachability so that students can come up and say, hey, what would you do in this situation? Like, I've been offered this or this, and I don't really know what to do. How would I think through this to make a good decision? And so that's really rewarding,
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean that's another good thing about keeping track with keeping up with all of your graduate students. I mean, after they graduate, say y'all built an email list or a text message list where you tell all these students like, all right, you're graduating, but this isn't the last time that you'll hear from me. Anytime you need a mentor, you need that extra little push or some advice, text me. I'll answer you and I will help. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And it's awesome that all of the students here at MCOB have access to that because, like you said, there's been times where you didn't know what to do, you didn't know who to talk to, and you didn't have that number that you could go and text, but now, all the students here will have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Super cool.
It's so refreshing to hear such a passionate perspective from
Really, from both of you guys.
It's not a job, it's a vocation.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a calling.
We could be doing something different, but we don't want to do
You'd
something
probably be great
different.
at that as well.
Yeah,
but you're here.
absolutely.
You're kind. I don't know.
That's sweet.
We found our niche.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that like our offices are right across the hall from each
Yes.
other is so fun, and we get to
Yeah, we can banter back and forth and ride down to on field trips. The College of Business does some field trips, and we want to do even more. But it's fun to ride together in the car on a field trip and be able to, banter and tell stories and help each other out. Just what are you thinking, and what are your research interests, and what would you like to do, and then we think alike, so the advice is on track.
Well, and research backs this up, but one of the best predictors of happiness at work is if you have a friend at work.
Yeah,
And
100%.
it's so nice to have a friend
Absolutely.
at work, especially in my these recent years when I was back in graduate school and doing a lot of freelance work and entrepreneurial ventures at my house because of the pandemic and because of graduate school. It's so nice to be back in a team context, and it's so nice to have a friend at work.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, talking on connections, you said your first role was from who you know. You're saying
Every job I've ever
Yeah.
received, it's been because of who I knew and the reputation that I had built. I tell students all the time that you don't get a chance, to really quickly repair a reputation. Like, you need to really protect that. The person that you are, the decisions that you make, the things that you do, build a reputation. And if you have a good one, then that is going to absolutely be, an incredible, gift and certainly something that's going to help you outshine other candidates. Because when you're up against 150 other people for a particular job,
It's tough.
it's tough. And, I think Dr. Zoghby and I both realize the special nature of the job that we have. I mean, not a lot of people get to teach in a university, much less, in the College of Business. And so we take that very seriously and want to do a good job because, we know that this is a rare and special thing that we get to do.
That's so true. And when you say about reputation management on a personal level, I mean, we think about it on a corporate or business level. From a marketing side, you want to have reputation management. But we need to, and I think we encourage the students to think about themselves as their own brand, not to objectify anybody, but think about yourself as your own brand and your reputation management for yourself.
Yes, 100%.
And what are you bringing into the marketplace
That's
of ideas, of
so
of
true.
your job, for the community, for your family and friends? Like, what are you bringing? What is your unique value proposition that
Yes.
you're bringing? And that's important to start thinking of ourselves.
I
like
tell
that.
students all the time that, they have to offer a rare and valuable skill set to the employer if they want to make a good salary. Because, if everybody can do it, then you're not going to get paid as much. But if you specialize in something, if you have like some sort of rare skill, for me, it was knowing how to do a mail merge between Excel and at the time it was Word Perfect.
Yep.
That dates me for
Thank
sure.
you for saying word perfect. That's like
1992. But yeah, so I tell my students when I went into the workplace, they were still rolling pre-printed pieces of paper into a typewriter. They were looking up the information on a mainframe computer, and then they were writing it down, and then they were typing it. And you could do about probably 13, 14 licenses in a day, and I could do 70 in a day by doing a mail merge.
Hold on, I have a little magic trick to show you.
Yes. So I could do more licenses in one day than people could do in a week. And then I would spend the rest of the week going around to the C-suite telling them how they could be more efficient using
Teaching everyone
technology.
else how to do it.
And I moved up the corporate ladder very quickly. But I want to just tell students all the time is like, you need to foster your rare and valuable skill set. We've had students graduate from the Mitchell College of Business and their starting salary is more than I make now. Mm-hmm. And I celebrate that for them. but they taught themselves things outside of the classroom. They took and built upon what we taught them. So we show them software programs like Tableau, but they went and got a Tableau certificate. They went out and got a Google Analytics certificate. They went out and learned Python and SQL and these things that not every student is required to do, but they built that brand, took it into their internship, and then was able to leverage that, and into a well-paying job. And they took that job right out of college, and another company snatched them up 6 months later, offered them even more money, and moved them to Boston. So, students can leverage that if they're smart.
Well, and building on what you said is not only are they building on skills and their knowledge base while they're here at Mitchell College of Business, but I think that we encourage them to be lifelong learners and to keep fostering those social and business contacts, those volunteer contacts, but also to keep those skills, whether it's going back to school, going back to graduate school once and twice like we each did.
Correct.
Or whether it's also just learning new skills through certifications or special classes that you can take. I mean, learning is beautiful in that it's lifelong.
It is.
And so I think we're trying to mention that to them too. How are we doing on time? Do we need
to say,
we've been going over,
It's okay.
I mean,
it's been great so far.
Nobody is surprised by that.
Just to wrap up, could you give us a quick little elevator pitch as to why a student should choose MCOB and why they'd benefit from the prep courses and everything you offer and teach? Whoever wants to go first.
Listen to this podcast.
Right.
Dun, dun, dun.
I've never seen them.
Yeah.
Quiet.
The mics are still working. We're just...
Do you want to go first?
I was going to let you go first, but okay, I'll go first. Sure, they can always edit it if I want to say something different. I would say Mitchell College of Business offers a great opportunity where you can learn about business, learn about global business, make great connections both in the community and across your field. Like, come to Mitchell College of Business because we are interested in your career and life success.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I feel like it's such a rare and valuable thing that we offer. So we were talking about rare and valuable skill sets that students need to develop, that businesses need to develop, that brands need to develop. And certainly here in the College of Business, we're offering things that other universities aren't. We have committed to carve out, room out of the curriculum to offer courses, to connect them with thoughts and ideas and self-development and self-reflection, to really lay a foundation that they're just not going to get at other, places. And if you could ask the student to live two lives, one with prep and one without prep, then they could see it. But because they're only experiencing life with prep, then they don't really know what they're missing. They just kind of take it for granted. But I've had so many students after they've graduated come back and they're talking to their...
Goodness.
Exactly. They're talking to their peers. They're talking to other people. And they just realize that they are head and shoulders above the other candidates, or, not that we're trying to be better than people, but we want them to bring their best
come to South, you'll
version
be
of
better than
themselves.
Everyone else. That's my elevator pitch.
I think we had a T-shirt one time that said, one day you'll work for us,
yeah.
which was really funny. Yeah.
That's great, yeah. That's a really good way of selling it. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
that was great.
Thank you.
We had a
Go
great
Jags.
time with you
Go
guys.
Jags.
Go Jags, all day, every day. Well, that'll do it for podcast number 11, By the Numbers. Thank you guys so much for coming today. We had an absolute blast. Thank you so much for all of the just encouragement and insights. I know I personally learned a lot today, and I know everyone that's listening also will. And, you guys need to take notes on this one. But that's all from me, Brylan.
And me, Shane. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to By the Numbers, brought to you by the Mitchell College of Business. Stay tuned. There'll be a new episode coming soon.